Microsoft is done pretending Xbox matters, and in my opinion, all signs indicate a dark future for the brand. Something is clearly dying at Microsoft, and is not for a lack of money, yet seemingly unethical things are continuously occurring. In the summer of 2025, Microsoft initiated one of the most brutal creative purges in gaming history. Entire studios were shuttered, long-promised games were cancelled, and veteran developers were laid off. Many without warning. These weren't the desperate acts of a struggling company, on the contrary. They came as Microsoft's gaming division celebrated what Phil Spencer called our most profitable year ever. Let that sink in. Not just a profitable year, but the most profitable in Xbox's history. A year where gaming revenue climbed, Game Pass subscriptions grew, and Microsoft's overall net profit exceeded $25 billion in a single quarter. And yet, the same people who built that success were the first to go. So, without further ado, let's explore why Microsoft just completely gutted Xbox, despite clearly already making a lot of money. I am Lady Decades. Apologies for the slightly different production style today. I'm currently on the road across Serbia. However, this ridiculous story is too shameless to ignore. So grab some popcorn, as it is time to discuss the latest AAA mess unfolding in America. Well, American gaming has sadly devolved into a bit of an embarrassing mess, with Xbox gutted and $400 million disasters like Concord stinking up the room. There's still hope on the horizon, and it's coming from Europe and Asia. Using my affiliate link below, you can grab some of the most exciting titles for a fraction of their usual price. Get over 30% off the incredible turn-based RPG Expedition 33, the visually stunning Stellar Blade, the beautiful Black Myth Wukong, and up to 90% off of thousands more games. You can even snag a huge discount on Wu Chang Fallen Feathers pre-order. These are real games crafted by people who still care, and you can add them to your collection without feeding the machine. So happy shopping, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Microsoft's financial results in 2025 read like a tech investor's dream. In just the third quarter, the company had generated $70.1 billion in revenue, up 13% year over year, with a staggering $25.8 billion in net profit. It was the most profitable quarter in the company's history. Gaming wasn't excluded from that success. Xbox content and services rose 8%, fueled by Game Pass growth and a renewed push into multi-platform publishing. This was not a floundering decision, this was a division in the black. And yet, as the numbers soared, the axe came down. Across the 2024 and 2025 periods, Microsoft laid off over 15,000 employees, with 9,000 job cuts landing in a single sweep in July, most of them from the gaming division. Entire studios were shuttered, veteran developers were blindsided, games years into development were abruptly cancelled. It wasn't just ruthless, it was surreal. In an internal memo, Phil Spencer wrote, "We are making changes that will result in job eliminations for some of our colleagues. While incredibly difficult, these changes are grounded in ensuring our long-term success." That same memo also praised the division's performance. "We've just had the most profitable year ever. Our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger." A Halo developer responded bluntly, "I wasn't sure what part of that I was supposed to be proud about." This contradiction, record success and record layoffs, only makes sense when viewed through the warped lens of corporate finance. These cuts aren't about failure or survival, they're about efficiency, margin expansion, and shareholder return. Microsoft is currently investing $80 billion into AI infrastructure, and that money has to come from somewhere. Cancelled projects, reduced headcount, and automated workflow are how the company funds its ambitions, while still maintaining 94% of its free cash flow for stock buybacks and dividends. And the cruel irony, profitability is no longer a shield. On the contrary, it's a bullseye. When a division like Xbox can deliver its best numbers ever and still be gutted, then it becomes clear success no longer secures your place. It marks you for extraction, or as one laid off of 343 Industries developer put it, this isn't a pivot, it's a eulogy. The July 2025 layoffs weren't just about cutting headcount, they were a scorched earth campaign against Xbox's creative backbone. This wasn't a pruning, it was an amputation. The most recognisable, ambitious and culturally significant studios were targeted, the ones that defined what Xbox meant creatively. The most symbolic loss was The Initiative, a studio formed in 2018 to create so-called quadruple A cinematic blockbusters. Stacked with veteran talent from Naughty Dog, Respawn and Crystal Dynamics, it was meant to be Microsoft's prestige answer to Sony's first-party dominance. Their perfect dark reboot had already been unveiled with gameplay teased and then cancelled. The studio is now closed. Next came Turn 10 Studios, the team responsible for Forza Motorsport, one of Xbox's flagship franchises. Over 70 employees, roughly half of the studio, were laid off, with reports suggesting that the core team was disbanded entirely. One ex-developer wrote, "Turn 10 has shuttered the Forza Motorsport space. The team is no more. The Forza name may survive elsewhere, but the original creators are out." Then there was Rare, the legendary British studio behind Banjo-Kazooie and Sea of Thieves. Their new IP, Everwild, was in development since 2019, plagued by internal reboots, yet still had promise. In a recent update, Phil Spencer claimed the project was making progress. Weeks later, it was cancelled. Its creative director, Greg Mayles, departed after 35 years at Rare. The game vanished. So did the legacy. ZeniMax Online Studios suffered a quieter blow. Their secret MMO project, codenamed Blackbird, was abruptly cancelled, despite reportedly entering full production. Developers were locked out of their work accounts before an announcement was made. One artist wrote, "We didn't even get a chance to announce it. Years of world building gone in a Slack notification." Elsewhere, the cuts were equally brutal. At King, makers of Candy Crush, 10% of staff were laid off, including the entire narrative and UX teams. At Blizzard, Warcraft, Rumble was effectively shuttered, moved into maintenance mode after internal attempts to revive it failed. Even Halo's developers, once the crown jewel of Xbox, weren't spared. Staff described morale as non-existent, with one writing, "Nobody's happy, and we're not proud of what we're building anymore." Blizzard Albany, formerly Vicarious Visions, long absorbed into the Blizzard machine after their work on Diablo 2 Resurrected, was quietly dissolved as part of the restructuring. No fanfare, no statement. These aren't just pink slips, these are cultural amputations. Studios with decades of history, franchises with loyal global audiences, and projects nurtured for years are completely discarded overnight. And none of this was random. No legacy is too sacred for Microsoft, no IP is too iconic. Microsoft haven't just fired people, they've just fired their own creative identity. What's left isn't innovation or renewal, it's a hollowed out brand coasting on momentum and memory while its most meaningful contributors are gone. If this is an Xbox, then nothing is. In late 2024, Microsoft unveiled a new slogan. This is an Xbox. It was pitched as bold, forward-thinking and inclusive, but beneath the sleek marketing and aspirational tone, it wasn't a mission statement, it was a redefinition and a quiet obituary. The campaign sought to stretch the word Xbox until it meant almost nothing at all. A smart TV running Game Pass? Xbox. A Samsung Galaxy phone? Xbox, a Lenovo laptop, a Meta Quest headset, the Asus ROG Ally handheld, and yes, even a surreal promotion involving Crocs and egg cartons. This is an Xbox. Internally, Microsoft described the shift as a platform-agnostic redefinition. Outwardly, it was framed as an evolution, but in practice, it's blurred the very identity of the platform, because if everything is an Xbox, then Xbox as a console, as a community, as a culture, no longer exists. Nowhere is this clearer than in the ROG Ally partnership. This handheld gaming PC built by Asus will be sold with Xbox branding front and center, but Microsoft didn't design the hardware. They didn't engineer the experience. They licensed their logo. A console maker with one of the largest R&D budgets on Earth chose to outsource its next portable offering to a third party, not because it couldn't make one, but because it simply doesn't want to. This isn't platform expansion, it's platform evaporation. Microsoft's vision is no longer rooted in hardware, and worst and most telling of all, Phil Spencer has been transparent about this, commenting that we would love to see Game Pass on all platforms. We are open to those discussions. That's not a console strategy, that's a billing model. The future Xbox Microsoft wants isn't a box under your TV, it's a subscription on every device you own. Game Pass on PlayStation, Game Pass on Nintendo, Game Pass on your phone, your tablet, your fridge. And if there's no console, no dedicated hardware, no exclusives, then what exactly is Xbox? The uncomfortable truth is, Xbox will become just a payments plan, a logo and a launcher, a recurring charge on your bank statement with no physical home and no real allegiance. Microsoft isn't evolving Xbox, they're preparing to bury it and training us to smile at the funeral. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of this current mess. If you've been wondering why every major publisher seems obsessed with producing the same dull, disposable live service game, here's your answer. It's not about what players want, it's about what investors think players might tolerate. The modern AAA industry is gripped by a near-religious devotion to live service formats and extraction shooters, genres architected around endless monetization loops, not meaningful gameplay. Despite a growing graveyard of failures, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, Concord and Sega's cancelled Hyenas, publishers continue flooding the market with games nobody asked for and few actually enjoy. The logic isn't creative, it's financial. According to a 2025 GDC developer survey, 1/3 of all AAA studios are now working on live service projects. At the same time, 68% of producers report their development pipelines are strained or unsustainable. The genre's dominance isn't about fun, it's about a fantasy, the dream of infinite revenue. One analyst compared the mindset to a looter shooter itself. Investors behave like live service players, obsessed with one metric: number go up. And just like a bad loot grind, this pursuit is both hollow and self-destructive. These games are no longer designed to be entertaining, they're engineered to be habit-forming. Short dopamine loops, drip-fed cosmetics, battle passes, time-limited FOMO events. It's not game design, it's a casino logic in a controller. The goal isn't to delight players, it's to retain them, to farm them. And when these projects inevitably underperform, as they almost always do, the cost isn't just financial, it's human. Developers spend years building these Frankenstein games, crunching through unsustainable workloads, only to be laid off the moment the KPIs don't impress shareholders. The game flops, the studio shutters, the process restarts somewhere else. As the IGDA recently put it, sustainable development models are being abandoned for speculative profit models, often at the expense of the workforce. And what gets lost along the way are the games people actually want: polished, creative, standalone experiences. These are now considered risky, outdated, or unscalable. Microsoft's layoffs, project cancellations, and shifting strategies aren't a break from this trend, they're its natural endpoint. This isn't about crafting great games, it's about crafting great quarterly earnings. In that environment, your enjoyment is irrelevant, just another line item in a risk report. And as we'll see next, once a company stops prioritizing meaningful experiences, it starts to ask an even more dangerous question. Why bother keeping anything exclusive at all? Once upon a time, platform exclusives were the soul of a console. For Xbox, games like Halo, Fable, Forza, and Gears of War weren't just hits, they were identity. They were the reason to buy in. But that era is now being quietly, deliberately dismantled. Over the past 2 years, Microsoft has systematically rolled out its former exclusives across rival platforms. Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush arrived on PlayStation and Switch. Sea of Thieves launched on PS5. Grounded and Forza Horizon 5 have followed, and even now, Halo, once Xbox's unsinkable, unshakable flagship, is reportedly next. This isn't a leak or a mistake, it's a strategy. Internally, it's known as Project Latitude, a deliberate pivot away from exclusivity in favour of reach. The logic is simple: if the console audience is shrinking, then the games must travel. The brand isn't strong enough to draw players in, so Microsoft is sending the games out. It's a bold move, but it also erodes the last reason for Xbox to exist as a distinct platform. One industry analyst said it plainly: once you commit to releasing your tentpole titles on other consoles, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. They're right. Once Halo lands on PlayStation, the ecosystem argument evaporates. Why stay in the Xbox walled garden when the garden gates are wide open? This isn't about player freedom, it's business pragmatism. Microsoft is watching hardware sales nosedive. In some European regions, PlayStation is outselling Xbox 5-1. In Japan, Xbox now holds less than 1% of the console market share. Retailers across Europe are quietly dropping Xbox SKUs altogether. This isn't an expansion, it's retreat. So Microsoft is pulling up the tentpoles and chasing volume. More players, more devices, more platforms, but no foundation. And the end result? A brand without a home. If your games are everywhere and your console is nowhere, then what is an Xbox? The answer is unambiguous: a brand in hospice. This isn't ecosystem growth, it's not generosity, it's not even a strategy, it's brand euthanasia, a slow, polite, carefully worded farewell to the very idea of Xbox as a platform. And those still clutching to their Series X consoles, they're not loyalists. They're subscribers, carriers of recurring revenue. Xbox is no longer the goal, it's just one more means to fund Microsoft's real ambitions. But beyond the ridiculous idea of chasing perpetual exponential growth, what even are those ambitions? If you want to understand what's happening to Xbox, you have to stop looking at the games and start looking at the shareholders. Despite all of the PR buzzwords about restructuring, pivoting, and evolving the platform, Microsoft's real strategy couldn't be clearer. They're not building the future of gaming, they're extracting value from it. In 2024 alone, Microsoft returned over $30 billion to shareholders through dividends and stock buybacks. Across multiple quarters, that represented 94% of their free cash flow. That's not an investment, it's not growth, it's financial engineering designed to inflate share price, not enrich creative output. At the same time, the company is funneling an estimated $80 billion into artificial intelligence infrastructure. That includes cloud data centers, large language model training, and the expansion of Microsoft's proprietary tools like Copilot. CEO Satya Nadella has openly stated that 20 to 30% of code across Microsoft's software stack is now being written by AI, including game-adjacent tech. And this is the real story behind the layoffs. These aren't signs of a struggling business, they're symptoms of a successful business being harvested. Microsoft isn't trimming fat. They're replacing developers with algorithms. They're dissolving creative departments to fund machine learning. Studios like Rare and Turn 10 weren't underperforming. They were too expensive to justify keeping alive when that money could be rerouted towards data centers and AI research. Creativity is no longer treated as a core asset, it's a cost center, a liability in an age where scalable, automated solutions are now the new currency. Xbox isn't being dismantled because it failed, it's being dismantled because it succeeded just enough to be broken down for parts. Its revenue funds Microsoft's next pivots, its developers have been replaced, its hardware is outsourced. Its exclusives are released elsewhere. Its brand becomes little more than a launcher icon for Game Pass. As Satya Nadella recently declared, we are the co-pilot company. Not the Xbox company, not the gaming company, not even the software company anymore. The co-pilot company. And in that vision of the future, there's little room for bespoke hardware, emotional storytelling, or platform legacy. So when studios are shuttered and franchises quietly retired, don't fall for the excuse that they failed to perform. They didn't. They were sacrificed strategically, coldly, and deliberately to bankroll an AI revolution that no one in the gaming world asked for. This is not a collapse. It's not a miscalculation, it's asset liquidation to fund a future where Xbox and perhaps gaming itself is little more than another tool in the enterprise productivity stack. So, what can we learn from all of this? Xbox was never perfect, but it mattered. It was the last major American console brand, a platform that once dared to challenge Sony and Nintendo not just with money, but with identity. It gave us Halo, Gears of War, Forza, Xbox Live Arcade, and eventually Game Pass. It built communities, it courted risks, it's tried. But in 2025, Xbox isn't a console anymore, it's a subscription, a launcher, a lingering logo pinned to the top of a corner of someone else's hardware. It's a name kept alive not by passion or innovation, but by corporate inertia, a legacy brand reduced to a line item on a quarterly earnings report. And here's the most unsettling truth. The rest of the industry is watching. They see a company post record profits, lay off thousands, cancel its most ambitious games, dissolve iconic studios, and still be rewarded for it. They see that you don't need loyal players, you need user metrics. You don't need hardware, you need distribution. You don't need artistry, you need scalability. You don't need to make good games, you just need to make people pay. And then pay again, and again, and again. What's happening to Xbox isn't a fluke, it's a blueprint. This isn't just the quiet end of a console cycle, it's the slow, deliberate erasure of gaming as we knew it. A transformation from creative medium to monetized platform, from entertainment to engagement, from joy to revenue. Developers are being replaced with algorithms. Players are being replaced with data points. Consoles are being replaced with login screens. And maybe that's why this all feels like a funeral. Because if this is what the last American console looks like, maybe we've already lost more than just the brand. Don't forget, as dark as all of this info sadly is, there are still good games regularly coming out of Europe, Japan, and other parts of Asia which aren't just more live service extraction shooters. So not all is completely lost yet. Get over 30% off the incredible turn-based RPG Expedition 33, the visually stunning Stellar Blade, the beautiful Black Myth Wukong, and up to 90% off of thousands more games. You can even snag a huge discount on your Wu Chang Fallen Feathers pre-order. These are real games crafted by people who still care, and you can add them to your collection without feeding the machine. I hope you treat yourself to some great games, or if you want to support my work in a more personal way, access my behind-the-scenes cosplay library and more by becoming a backer over on Patreon.